Global powers are trying to challenge China because they have never been challenged before. China was always a country that's been bullied by other countries such as Japan, France, the British Kingdom, Germany. China's always been bullied. And now, China is fighting back.
That's the top thing I've learned working with Chinese people over the past 6 years. You have to just do it. In the US, we're so used to taking a project and being like, okay, let's build it out. Let's have this ready by next year. Whereas in China, it's like, okay, we have this big project. We're going to launch it by next week. Who's ready?
Wait, you're telling me that Trump just folded to China and then mainstream media and everyone is calling it a win? You and me here in the United States are getting gaslit by the media. Let me tell you what the trade deal looks like to people abroad and how they think we're idiots. These tariffs were Trump's biggest poker chip, right?
How do you guys do it? How do you survive? How, like, I'm apartment shopping. I'm looking for a place to live, and it's so out of my reach. I work 2 jobs from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. and then from 4 p.m. till 11:30 p.m. I literally run to my second job just to be on time, and I still can't afford living in California.
Okay, so y'all know how the US has always had severely anti-China propaganda, and they just signed a new bill specifically to make anti-China propaganda.
The US is so terrified over Huawei's chips that it's now warned every country in the world against using them. Why? Because Huawei's chip clusters are outperforming America's best. And if you've watched this show, you know the US's motto: if you can't beat them, ban them.
Hey, besties. Let's talk about something that's been on everyone's mind, whether they want to admit it or not. The US is slipping and China. Baby, China is thriving. While Americans are juggling 2 or even 3 jobs just to make ends meet, the Chinese are building bullet trains, launching electric vehicles faster than you can blink, and casually rolling out 6G prototypes. And let's not forget how American healthcare and housing are so out of reach that survival itself feels like luxury. So today, we're diving into how China is becoming the global powerhouse while America is catching dust. Let's get into it.
Like, I'm seeing videos of people moving into RVs because they cannot afford home ownership, or they can't afford rent. So it's just cheaper to live in an RV. Like, this is crazy. Why can't the wages be high enough where you can live comfortably as a single person? I don't know if I'm ever going to be a homeowner, let alone ever move out of my parents' house. Because rent alone, you have to make 3 times the rent. What's 3 times $2,000? You would have to make $72,000 to afford that. And if you can't afford that, you have to have someone who loves you enough to co-sign for you. And on top of that, if you do live with your parents or family, the BS that comes with that. As much as you may love your family, I guarantee you when you're my age, 27 or 26 years old, or you're getting close to 30, you don't want to live with your parents anymore. But I don't make enough to afford to move out. Even now, as a higher level position of a job that I just got, I'm still not gonna make enough to move out. Couple dollars more an hour, I'm still not gonna be able to afford to move out of my parents' house. I'm still in credit card debt. I'm still living check to check. And if I did not have my parents' house right now, which I'm sharing a bed in, and don't have my own room currently, I would be homeless. I would literally be homeless. And I was only able to get this job that makes a couple dollars more an hour after putting thousands of applications in. Was just able to get this job, is gonna keep my head above water with my bills. And it's very high stress too. I think the American dream was once a thing where, our parents and our grandparents, they don't know what they're talking about. Half of them give the advice of when you're 18, move out, do this. That was possible for them. That's not possible for our generation now. That's why I don't even shame people who are doing OF right now, whatever. It is hard as hell to make a living right now. It is so challenging. And most people around me are too comfortable. They're too comfortable at their low-wage jobs. They're too comfortable with where they're at. And I'm not. Every day I wake up, I'm like, I don't like where I'm at. I should not feel like this. I'm meant for more. I should strive for more. But a lot of the people around me have just kind of accepted their fate and accepted where they are. I think that's all there is. And I'm like, no, that's not all there is for me. The cycle of poverty is so hard to get out of.
Within my first few months of living in China, I realized how crazy the propaganda that I was taught about China was. I truly thought that this was going to be like North Korea light. The society and culture was definitely different, but a lot of the scary things that China had, we have in the United States now. There are cameras literally everywhere in China. This is the street I lived on, and if I remember correctly, there's a camera like right there. There's a lot of fear mongering around facial recognition and the government like tapping into your phone calls to listen. All of that stuff is true, but all of it also exists in the United States in some way. But when we do it, it's fine. They cannot access certain books that would make them, turn against the country. We now have the same thing in the United States. This book is banned. This book is banned. Surely this is banned. This is probably banned as well. I know that Bridge to Terabithia is also banned. As Americans, I don't think we can ever comprehend how safe China is. I had to walk up a hill to get to my apartment, and one time I was coming home from some trip and a taxi dropped me off at the bottom of the hill, so I had to walk all the way up it alone at 3 a.m. It was safe for me to do that at 3 a.m. with a bunch of luggage. There's some people wandering around smoking like it wasn't a big deal. I was safe, and I don't think that we truly comprehend what it's like to be in an environment where you're not constantly looking for exits, worrying about your surroundings constantly. And in China, the worst thing that could happen to me is I get robbed. In America, the worst thing that can happen to me is I'm unalive. Not having that mental load is great, and my students would always ask me if I'd ever been a part of a mass because they know that that happens a lot here. Also, in China, they actually treat children like humans. Their culture, their children are their retirement plan. Children are so protected and prioritized. You were on a bus sitting in a seat. If a child came on the bus and there are no other seats for them to sit in, you are supposed to give up your seat to the child. I have seen elderly people give up their seat for a child. I'm not talking like a little baby. I'm talking about like 9-year-olds. It's very different, and I don't think parents are as anxious about their child getting home safely in general because they call it like an honor shame society. When someone in your community gets hurt, no matter who it is, it's shameful on the whole community. If something was to happen to me, the community would feel really bad and embarrassed. My students, it was their first time living away from home, and they cared about each other's well-being so much. Like, it was very cute. There are downsides, like this can create a very overprotected society. They're very like risk averse. It's just so nice knowing I can walk around a city and not be worried about getting punched in the face like what's happening in New York City right now. Foreign teachers definitely have different privileges, but I just found myself really impressed with the culture. Overall, the average middle class life in China is a lot better than here in the United States. I know you hate to hear it, but it's true. And just like every country, there's poverty, exploitation, like there's other things that are really bad that are happening in China, but none of them are unique to China. As Americans are like, communist China is so bad, so scary. Chinese people are like, at least I can send my kid to school without worrying about them getting.
Okay, so you all know how the US has always had severely anti-China propaganda, and they just signed a new bill specifically to make anti-China propaganda. It has a certain amount of funds allocated specifically to that, and it's always been like the Red Scare thing against communism, etc. What's really funny about everyone migrating over to Rednote is that Chinese journalists have started reaching out to big content creators on TikTok, asking them, why are you migrating here? And so now not only are the American citizens seeing everyday life in China and being like, oh wow, they can afford their groceries, they have a huge, like, amazing standard of living, they have healthcare, they have this, they have that. It's not at all the scarcity mindset that we've always been taught about communism. Not only that, but now these journalists are reaching out to all of these TikTokers to find out why, and these TikTokers are not holding anything back, and they're like, we can't afford groceries, our government hates us, they want to censor us. So not only are the American citizens finding out that China is actually like a really nice place to be, they are also actively airing America's dirty laundry, so to say, in front of Chinese journalists. Like, if it wasn't embarrassing enough for the US Congress that everyone was like, watch us. You want us to go back to Instagram Reels? Absolutely not. Watch us. And they all migrated over to Rednote. If that wasn't embarrassing enough, they're now going and airing everything out to Chinese journalists. America is never recovering from this, and that makes me very happy.
That's the top thing I've learned working with Chinese people over the past 6 years. You have to just do it. In the US, we're so used to taking a project and being like, okay, let's build it out. Let's have this ready by next year. Whereas in China, it's like, okay, we have this big project, we're gonna launch it by next week. Who's ready? And I think there's something to be said about waiting and wanting to plan it out, but it's a lot easier to iterate when you already have a rough draft or something going. And I think even on a macro scale in China, I would be there and overnight the whole neighborhood would change, or there would be a new city that pops up, or there would be a new hospital that was built. As a country, I think they're just a lot quicker with being like, it doesn't have to be great, it's just gotta be functional. And in the US, I'm always thinking about the bill that's trying to climb Capitol Hill, that song, and it keeps falling down because there's always so many stakeholders and everybody wants to have an opinion, and let's think about this when we have our big meeting. So yeah, I've learned, just get something out there, just do it.
Let's start with the obvious. Americans are tired. And not in the I just need coffee kind of way. I'm talking I work 2 jobs and still can't afford rent tired. According to recent data, over 8 million Americans hold more than one job. Why? Because one paycheck just doesn't cut it anymore. Whether it's inflation, stagnating wages, or the never-ending rise of basic living costs, surviving in America now feels like a full-time hustle with no vacation days. And what's wild? This isn't normal in other developed countries. In China, the average citizen doesn't need multiple streams of income to stay afloat. They can actually live with one job. Imagine that.
I'm sorry, but the American dream never fucking existed. Like, what? Your dream is to work until you are 65 and decrepit and not be able to make ends meet the entire time? Like, I'm sorry, but that just does not sound remotely appealing to me. It's not even about the dream anymore. Like, people are literally just trying to afford living in America. And here's the thing. If you are working for America, you will never be able to live your dream life in America. And I know that most of you have probably already scrolled by now because you don't think it's possible to live in America without working for America. I was a server at the beginning of 2023. I quit my serving job. I started affiliate and digital marketing in April of 2023 and have now made almost $300,000 working online, and none of that came from my serving job. So if you are genuinely interested in working for yourself, starting an online business, check out the roadmap. It's at the top of my page. It literally shows you everything that you need to know to make money online, to start digital marketing. But I promise your dreams are so much more achievable than you think they are, but you're probably not going to reach very many of them by living that American dream life.
So I just got my hospital bill in the mail, and before I had a baby, I always wondered how much it costs to have a baby here in the US. I have pretty good health insurance, but this is the breakdown of my hospital bill. So the first thing was the room where I stayed at after delivery, and that was $17,760. Pharmacy, $55. Medical surgical supplies, $1,323. Non-sterile supplies, $2,437. Sterile supply, $50. Lab work, $1,484. Immunology, $450. Hematology, $1,098. Anesthesia, $615 for that nice epidural. Drugs required, $59. Delivery room, $20,395 for a whopping total. Oh wait, no, I missed it. I don't even know what the heck this is. $5,657. And then for a whopping total of $51,383. This is before insurance, and just as an FYI, there was no complications at all during my birth, natural delivery, no issues whatsoever.
Now let's get into healthcare, or should we call it wealth care? Because unless you're rich, good luck affording anything without going into debt. A single ER visit in the US can cost thousands, and let's not even get into prescription drugs or ambulance rides. People literally have GoFundMe pages to pay for surgeries. Meanwhile, in China, you can walk into a hospital, pay a reasonable fee, and get treatment. No middleman, no insurance maze, and no financial ruin afterward. It's no wonder why people in the US are either skipping treatment altogether or flying abroad for medical tourism.
How do you guys do it? How do you survive? I'm apartment shopping. I'm looking for a place to live, and it's so out of my reach. I work 2 jobs from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. and then from 4 p.m. till 11:30 p.m. I literally run to my second job just to be on time, and I still can't afford living in California. Like, I just can't. I know some of you guys have roommates. I can't do that because I take care of my mom, you know? So it's awkward. It's not everybody's willing to share a house with an elderly woman, you know? So how? I feel like a single parent. Like, I'm apartment shopping. I've even considered renting a room. And just to give you a perspective, a room here in Thousand Oaks, where I live in Ventura County, is going for $1,200 a room, one room. God forbid I look for a studio, you know? And it's like, they want $1,600 for a little tiny studio, and they want you to make 3 times the amount of rent. Perfect credit. God forbid I look for a 2-bedroom or even a 1-bedroom apartment. 1-bedroom apartment goes for $2,300 in my area. A 2-bedroom apartment goes for $3,200. How? How do you guys survive? Jesus Christ. When did fucking living become a luxury? Like, how? Let me know. Like, 'cause I've even considered moving to Nevada. I considered moving to other states where rent is cheaper. But if you think about it, the minimum wage is a lot lower, which would only take me to a new city with no friends, like nowhere, like a whole new city, and then still be making minimum wage and still be in the same position, just with a different salary. I'm losing hope. I'm really losing hope. I don't know what to do.
You're not broke, you just live in the US. I moved to a tiny country in Europe and I plan on never coming back. The main reason is because my expenses are significantly less because everything is so much cheaper here. My rent is $1,500 and that's considered expensive here, and that covers water, electricity, Wi-Fi, literally all utilities, Netflix. I have no car payment because everything is walkable or you just take a scooter. Healthcare is free, but if you want to go to a private hospital, giving birth is about $2,000. And doctor's visits are about $30 each time. My groceries for 2 people are about $100 a month, but we do like to eat out a lot because the food is really good. And that alone maybe goes to like $200-300 a month. Self-care stuff like nails is gonna go between $15 and $50, and hair, a blowout is $10 and can go up to $150 for other stuff. So our monthly expenses, give or take, are about $3,000, $3,500 a month. And this is for 2 adults and a baby. Living abroad has given me so much more financial freedom. I can spend a little money here and get a lot more for it, which is the opposite in the US.
One of the truly most life-changing aspects about China is power banks. And you will find these in almost every restaurant, convenience store, everywhere around the entire country. And they come in this type of form. So they're these little like blocks that you can rent them from. And then it costs like maybe under $1 to rent it for a couple hours, and then you can just drop it off at any other one around the city. So you scan the little QR code, it shows you where all the different ones are, and then it's gonna pop one out. You get discounts and lots of other things, and it comes out. Oh, take this, you plug it in, and then you walk around, and then you find another one at a different place, and then you drop it off there. And because they're only a couple of different brands, you can just drop it off anywhere else. And this is life-changing. This would never happen in America because they would all get stolen or destroyed. And it's just like sitting there in the middle of the evening. Never ran out of battery because this is so ubiquitous, and I don't know how I would ever live without it. It's amazing.
Let's talk housing. In America, rent prices are out of control. The median rent in major cities is upwards of $2,000, and owning a home? Practically a pipe dream unless you're upper middle class or inherited property. Millennials and Gen Z are still living with their parents because after rent, bills, and student loans, there's nothing left to save. Contrast that with China, where yes, property costs can be high in big cities, but the government actively intervenes to stabilize markets. And young people aren't burdened with student debt that eats away their future. America's housing crisis is not just an economic issue, it's generational theft.
The US is so terrified over Huawei's chips that it's now warned every country in the world against using them. Why? Because Huawei's chip clusters are outperforming America's best. And if you've watched this show, you know the US's motto. If you can't beat them, ban them. Whether it's TikTok, DeepSeek, or Huawei, every time Chinese technology surpasses the US's, they run screaming to ban it. Now, specifically, the US is warning countries around the world that to use Huawei's superior chip clusters is a violation of US export controls. They say that export bans apply because these chips are likely to have, quote, been designed with certain US software or technology or produced with semiconductor manufacturing equipment that is a direct produce of certain US origin software, technology, or both. And where's the evidence of this? Absolutely nowhere, except that the US has said that Huawei's been developing too fast. While none of its individual chips outperform US leaders NVIDIA's, these clusters do outperform NVIDIA's cluster products, making them a very big concern for the US. They fall in their familiar MO. If you can't beat them, ban them, and cry foul while you do it. US for trying to ban the competition instead of stepping up your game. You just made the D3 list, a podcast about dumb, desperate, and diabolical business decisions.
Global powers are trying to challenge China because they have never been challenged before. China was always a country that's been bullied by other countries such as Japan, France, the British Kingdom, Germany. China's always been bullied. And now, China is fighting back, and these global powers can't seem to take it. But major countries won't fight China directly. They'll use smaller countries to go against China. It's a way to keep China and other small countries down while global powers stay in power.
Wait, you're telling me that Trump just folded to China and then mainstream media and everyone is calling it a win? You and me here in the United States are getting gaslit by the media. Let me tell you what the trade deal looks like to people abroad and how they think we're idiots. These tariffs were Trump's biggest poker chip, right? And Beijing basically just called the whole bluff. Follow me. I'm about to break down the math. Clearly, our media does not want us to know. Trump launched a 145% tariff on China, right? That's true. He just dropped that down to 30%. That's true. China just lowered theirs from 125 to just 10%. True. So they gave up almost nothing. Meanwhile, Americans, you and me, we're still stuck paying more for Chinese goods. One China expert said, in exchange for getting nothing from China, we agreed to remove the gun we had pointed at our own head. We will continue to aim the gun at our own foot. However, masterful negotiating, unquote. Inflation is still here. Recession fears are still real. Jobs in manufacturing still offshore. And China still did not make one single concession. And the commies in Beijing believe they actually won. They actually have said that Trump folded basically because of their countermeasures, which worked. The markets jumped, yes, but for how long? They're now more confident than ever they can manage the U.S. Heck, even Qatar is telling all their buddies they can just buy our president. And the next situation, the commies in China will press way harder. You're getting told this is the art of the deal. But if you look at the scoreboard, China won this round. I hate to tell you, I also supported Trump. If you're tired of these fake headlines and you want serious financial truth that actually helps you smarter from someone who's worked in finance, follow my page because this next move is just going on behind closed doors. And obviously, our media is indoctrinating us with garbage.
Now let's get into the tech drama. America loves to talk about freedom and capitalism, but the moment a foreign company out-innovates them, they throw sanctions and bans like tantrums. Huawei, ZTE, TikTok, BYD. The list goes on. These companies are pushing boundaries in 5G, electric vehicles, and smart tech. But instead of competing, the US government bans them. Why? Because they're terrified. Terrified of losing technological dominance to a country that, let's be real, is decades ahead in infrastructure, AI, and green tech. China isn't just catching up, they're already lapping the US.
If American manufacturers could make real money in the US, they would have already done it already. Let's be honest. Even when they bring factories back, to the United States is not going to be for the jobs. It's always for the capital. It's always for the gains. Everything will be automated. The bots don't need healthcare. The bots don't need lunch break. And yeah, people love blaming China, cheap labor this, unfair advantage that, but it's not just about wages. It's about infrastructures, high-speed trains, massive road networks, and dormitories for workers, and way less red tapes. China built to build. The US plays catch up while corporations chase stock price. Trump thought he can bully China into submission with tariffs. I think that's cute. The people in charge here in China right now, most are born in or before 80s. Most of us grew up with nothing. We were poor. I remember in the 80s, no toilet at home. I don't have a toilet in my family. We had to walk to a public washroom in the middle of the night. We are so used to struggle, we don't fall under pressure. We are thriving in it. This trade war is not going to hurt China the way you think. It's going to hurt US small businesses. And when they go down, big corporation going to buy them up. In the end of the day, you will be working for Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk while still blaming China. Go ahead. Tell me wrong.
China will overthrow the global petrol industry in 2030. As of May 1st, China's controlled nuclear fusion device has entered its final assembly phase. Its full name is the Burning Plasma Experimental Superconducting Tokamak, BEST. Unlike traditional nuclear power, which produces radioactive waste, fusion uses deuterium, a fuel found abundantly in seawater. Just 1 gram of deuterium can generate as much energy as burning 8 tons of oil. And its main byproduct? Helium-4, a safe, non-radioactive gas. Once it reaches commercial power generation, it could offer humanity virtually limitless clean energy. In January, BEST set a new world record by sustaining nuclear fusion at 100 million degrees Celsius for 1,000 seconds, 6 times hotter than the sun's surface. Now, a new fusion facility under construction in Hefei aims to demonstrate fusion-based electricity for the first time. Project lead Li Jiangang says they plan to power the world's first fusion-lit light bulb by 2030.
America's system is failing its citizens. From predatory healthcare to inaccessible housing and stagnant wages, the American dream is dead for most. People are one emergency away from being homeless. Meanwhile, China is playing the long game, investing in infrastructure, education, green energy, and international partnerships like the Belt and Road Initiative. While Americans are debating basic human rights, China is building megacities, innovating at warp speed, and offering their citizens a future that feels hopeful. Let's be honest. If America doesn't wake up, it's not just going to lose to China. It's going to collapse under its own broken system. So, besties, the next time someone tells you that America is the greatest country in the world, ask them, for who? Because while the elite get richer, the average citizen is working overtime just to survive. Meanwhile, China? They're focused on thriving. We can't keep ignoring the reality that's right in front of us. Anyway, thanks for hanging with me today and unpacking all this tea. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if this opened your eyes even a little. Until next time, adios, besties.